All right, so here we are in Elefsina in Greece, and we have a very special performance for you guys today. It's a hands-on demonstration of ancient Greek pottery and vase painting. I would first like to introduce my esteemed colleague and friend, Dr. Eleni Hasaki, who is a full professor of anthropology and classics at the University of Arizona, and she will sort of MC today. And if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then introduce our wonderful guest and potter and painter.
Thank you so much, Professor Stefan. This is indeed a great honor to be here. My research is on the maker spaces of ancient potters. We learn a lot through their establishments. When we excavate them, we learn a lot when we see them working in ancient face paintings. And of course, we learn about their work through the ceramics themselves. But archaeologists rarely know how to do anything. We just teach them most of the time. So it's a great pleasure and a great source of valuable information to visit the workshops of contemporary artists who use traditional techniques. And Mr. Thanasis Katsaras, the son of potters, has always welcomed scholars, students, the community, and it's the best way to start this demo session. And as Professor Stefan said, at Eleusis, which is the cultural capital of Europe for 2023. So thank you, Thanasi, for hosting us. We have with us Professor Caleb Simmons, the Arizona Online Director, also not knowing anything about throwing. He joins the academic, and most importantly, Miss Varvara Katsara, the mother of Thanasis, with a great background on ceramics herself, and the little apprentice Elena here.
Είσαστε έτοιμοι, Ελένη, τα αξιήσαμε, ήταν και το trimming stage.
Oh, you are perfect. Thanasi, there are words for people like you. Professionals.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
So, Thanasi, on your work table, you have two quite basic shapes of the ancient Greek households and the ancient Greek public spaces. So one is your skyphos, a drinking cup, skyphos, S-K-Y-P-H-O-S, where you fill it with wine and you hold it with your two hands and you drink. That's an open shape. And then in front of you, Thanasis, you have a tall cylindrical bottle that used to contain aromatic oil, and ancient Greeks would use it mostly in public spaces, whether it was cemeteries or sanctuaries as dedications. So we have almost a vase from the house and a vase from the sanctuary or the cemetery. Another thing for the students to perhaps notice as we go through is how Thanasis and all potters in the past and nowadays first draw the boundary lines where they will place their decoration. Archaeologists tend to ignore that important step, but you see how he frames the pot, whether it is small or big, these lines, and I understand these are difficult to make, Thanasi. Don't all young painters start from making those lines?
No, not from the beginning. Maybe the second year.
The second year, yeah. But you have to have a steady hand.
Yes, you must balance and shape your brush, and you must be able to calculate how much color you need so that to finish your line, and need some skills which you obtain with the experience. So I noticed that I was wrong, and Eleni told it gently. I thought it was for woman use. The lekithos, it was for the woman use, but it was for public use. Because we have the Peloponnesian War, lekithos at the stairs of the marble.
Yes, I think we were both right.
Okay.
It was publicly used mostly by women. Mostly by women as they were approaching sanctuaries.
Yeah, we have the vase paintings with lekithos
and
as offering.
cemeteries.
Yes. Yes, this is something difficult. You must combine your one hand continuously, not with not increase, not finish, not eliminate the speed. You must have a certain, constantly the same speed, and you must put very easily in at the center. Perhaps some bent vase is not very good. Needs two centers, one for up here. I look just here, so that to put average at the center, but it's not center for here. So you must have the experience to do it very fast, because perhaps you have 200 vases for a day. So you need.
Excellent.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Caleb, you go.
Oh no.
Yeah. You didn't come all the way.
The second one, like, it's better. That was awesome. The moment where you hold your breath.
Yes.
It's really.
Yes.
Alright, so you turn this way?
Mine is dead.
This way.
This way, okay.
Yeah. Put some. Yeah. Put and put it out.
Okay, now ready?
Very nice.
So we make the lines with a very thin brush. We have one passing here and here.
So we may be thinking.
I don't think that it's okay. Is it okay?
Yes, we're good.
Okay.
So we may be thinking, sometimes as archaeologists we call these zones the subsidiary decoration, but we can see now that the painter really starts filling the space through the lines and through the border motifs, and then he will zoom in the center of the vase.
So what we think of as maybe what we don't pay attention to is actually like one of the most important or most foundational parts of the vase painting process.
Absolutely, and they happen first. They happen first. So, and you also have to learn, it's a good training ground, Thanasi, right? You learn how to divide.
Yes, of course, yes, yes. I normally paint a figure first, and after I make all this decoration, but because it will take a lot of time to, to dry, that's why I make this painting first. But it depends on the habits of the individuals.
And those parts ultimately you could give to someone else to do in a workshop,
Yes,
right?
of course.
If like an apprentice.
Yes, my sister was specialized on this. I very late dealt with this job.
If you notice how he stabilizes his hand
With his finger,
on the
of course.
pot with
Yeah.
his finger, always to provide stability so that...
Yes, yes, this is important to do when you have to paint to certain small areas and small vases. If you have to paint a bigger vase, it is a disadvantage. You must learn to paint from, not with the wrist, from the whole hand. It's different.
The bigger vases.
Yes, yes.
And for the students, a great exercise would be to count how many times he has moved the vase. So archaeologists, when we are in museums or storage areas or conservation labs, we are terrified to hold the pot, but ancient and modern artisans have a more organic relationship with the vessel. So I have counted at least 5 different positions that the painter turns the vase for the optimal angle.
And you can see I've seen on some of the very big pithoi, right? Like you get the repair holes.
Yes.
Because they were very expensive. And,
Yes.
It was cheaper to actually repair them than to
Correct.
get a new
So
one.
the difference between these smaller vessels and the bigger ones are much more labor intensive. And indeed, you would think that if you break some ceramic, you can't mend it. But in antiquity, they were repairing them, even cups, amphorae, and of course the storage jars with lead clamps.
Clamps, huh?
That's how you would repair a cracked ancient vessel. So it has a long use life, and you can see how he has now very methodically developed the meander pattern or the Greek key pattern.
And it looks like on that you do the same part of the meander around the whole thing, and then you move to the second part of it around the whole thing.
Correct.
Instead of doing each one.
Correct.
Individually?
And thank you for mentioning that, because the entire process of an ancient Greek vase painter is that they would finish, if Thanasis had in front of him 20 likithoi, he would finish the same stage on all of them rather than finish in the one through all the stages. Yeah, so it is time management, perfect example of time management. You go through the same stage in all your pots.
You warm up your hand and you go faster and better. Faster and better, not only faster.
Yeah.
Thanasis, throughout the process, kept testing his brush on that empty space. And then I thought, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? I realized that
I had that same thought.
I know.
Yeah.
Is it going to be seen at the end? But this is a great draft paper, so to speak, on the pot itself, because later on it's going to be covered with slip and no one will see, including archaeologists. So for me to see, and I have not seen that before, that he uses part of a vessel to
test the brush and
to test the brush
and the color
and the color
and the hand and my hand.
So the pot contains all the tests and the final product. That was great. You almost fooled me there. You almost fooled me.
That's why I told you before that the man makes the lines must be experienced to know the distances. It's very important to know all the stages of the job. So this is almost ready. Needs some corrections because I didn't follow exactly the protocol of painting.
Maduro, you were going to say something?
I was going to say that usually in the discipline of classical archaeology, people get very good at, they can identify one of 50 different pottery types, or, the iconographic program based on a single tiny fragment.
Yes.
But we generally have zero idea about how anything's actually done. It's much more common to learn the kind of art history part of it rather than the lived experience kind of.
The truth is that the archaeologists despise the potters. They do. With the exception of Eleni. But not to tell about us that it is important to visit someone do this job, to have a better view.
Yeah.
Thanasis mentioned something very important to do, because most of the important things in this visit should happen as you speak, and then you say, oh my goodness, something valuable was just expressed. And Thanasis keeps referring to the work of the potter. If the potter is good, how the curves, and so in antiquity, when you asked Rob about the labor division, it was a symbiotic relationship, the potter and the painter.
Yes,
they would sit next to each other, they would see.
My mother is the last generation have this experience. After that, because they there at the studio met my father, and it was potters, painters. The man makes the clay. The man make the patterns, goes to the museums and copy because it was prohibited to have pictures. The man makes the molds. Makes glazes sometimes. But these factories stops. Μαμά, πότε έκλεισαν τα τελευταία εργαστήρια?
So in antiquity, the ancient painter saw a vessel like this, all brown or different shades of orange, and after firing, it turned out black or brown. He would have never seen the final result when he puts the vases in the kiln. Thank you to Thanasis for welcoming us to his workshop.